I also want to say thank you for being an ambassador for your kids' education. This is definitely very important work. And for you being here and present and wanting to know more how to support your kids, you are being an ambassador and you are empowering. And as you all know, we are a community that's hard to reach. You look at every school district, every school, and the Habesha community, which includes me and all of you guys, are hard to reach communities, and we are the community. And when we can be an ambassador of our kids' education, and when we can be informed and where we can reach out to the teacher, the district, and really in supporting our own kids, right? We are telling a different story than what the narrative is saying. We're changing the narratives. So therefore, I am so proud of you guys, and keep being ambassadors for your kids, which then will be assuring to raise future leaders. So I'm excited for that. When we look at the learning models, there's two different types, right? You have your in-person learning, which we're used to, what our kids are used to, unless you have a kindergartner who is starting school in virtual learning, right? This has been a very interesting conversation with our parents who have kindergarten kids. And they're used to watching a show where the kid goes to the school bus and getting to the school for their first day of kindergarten, right? But that won't be happening this time. So I'm sure it's going to be interesting conversation that you had to deliver. Oh no, school's going to be right here. We won't go on a school bus, and we'll be virtual learning from home. To differentiate what that in-person learning and virtual learning would be, there's a couple different ways, right? So when we look at in-person learning, the classroom setting is interactive. There's structure in the classrooms. It's also motivating, right? When we see each other doing the work in the classroom, it's motivating. They're actually demonstrating the work that they've been taught, and it's very interactive, and they're gonna practice doing the work too in the classroom setting. When we look at virtual learning, there is really none of that, right? Unless we're joining a pod, as a lot of parents are talking about. So with virtual learning, it will be self-paced. They will do their own self-starting, and it's also self-motivation. They're going to motivate themselves, or motivate as a parent and student, I guess, and also independent learners. So when we look at the virtual learning environment, it's all about self, right? It's all about I. It's all about me. And this looks different if you have a one single child or multiple kids. So those are very interesting, different things to look at. And when we look at, second slide, please. When we look at the pros of virtual learning, personally, I love it. And talking to Hannah, which is going to be inspiring when we hear her stories about homeschooling and virtual learning, you will definitely be inspired. And for me, after I talked to her, I'm like, maybe I want to homeschool my kids going forward. And there's lots of pros to virtual learning. That also gets us positive mindset, where it is what it is. It is going to be virtual learning. I don't want to write the cons down, because we don't need that, right? We're just going to focus on the pros. So what comes to mind, and I can definitely go on and on with the pros of virtual learning, but I had to summarize it to these few points. So adopting a new way of learning. So they're learning a whole new system, right? New platforms, new way of learning, new way of doing things. They're also becoming an independent learner. They're going to have to initiate things on their own. The teacher necessarily is not next to them to get them going. And also they'll be learning by mistakes, right? We learn by making errors and making mistakes. and also using technology for learning. This is very interesting to me because we know a lot of our kids use technology, and not so much to do a paper or research, right? They might Google stuff that they really need for their gaming or something other than education, but really going to be able to use this for learning purposes. And also they're going to learn organizational skills, right? Something that even as an adult, I know I'm learning every day, but they're going to start early in their age, and that's really great. And also family time. I know the more I spend time with my kids, the more I get to know them. And I think the more they get to know me as well. And also it's flexible, right? It's flexible and convenient. They can learn from wherever they are. And I think that's exciting to look at it that way. And I also think you can be your own kid's teacher, right? You can supplement things in however way that you think your kids should learn. So besides the schedule and the curriculum that's provided by your school district, you can teach them your family value like religion or culture, right? When we think of the school system that we're in, it is built in not so much for our kids to thrive, right? But when we teach them different things at home, it could be a map of Africa, or how politics and religion and culture and lots of things that we value as a parent, we can teach those things, and it will be up to us, right, to teach them what we want. So then we decide what they learn. So that's a pretty exciting way to look at virtual learning. And then when you think of virtual learning, you want to know how your kids learn, right? And different ways of learning. Next slide, Barry. Thank you. So in order for us parents to help our kids in virtual learning, we got to look at how is my kid going to be able to learn, right? What are the different learning styles that they have? And I did try to include the logo there. This is not my work. I had to research for it. And knowing how your kids learn, because that's important, right? So here are the 4 different types of learning styles that we can look at or look for in our kids. So you have the ones that learn by seeing, and then you have the ones that learn by hearing, and then you have the ones that learn by reading and writing, and then you have the ones that learn by doing. And in all of those points, there is more details for you to really look and assess. What does my kids like to do? Are they always busy? Do they want to demonstrate things? And this goes back to what happens in the interactive classroom, right? So figuring out how they learn or what their learning style is, we'll be able to have a smoother day because we're doing how they learn. We're not working too hard in a sense that we're going against their learning styles. And really, we can talk probably for an hour for all of these different styles, but I'll let you dig deep and figure out, and it would just be learning by mistakes, right? Maybe something we've learned from our spring quarter or spring semester, and now we understand our kids better. So this is something we have to keep in mind in doing virtual learning. And once we know how our kids learn, then we have to prepare, right? And then when we're preparing, how do we prepare? Can you be all prepared? Probably not fully prepared, but at least we can try, right? So look at your spring learning experiences. I know that was an emergency learning way or a way of learning. We didn't plan on it. School closed, right? And then we were home, and the schools had to provide emergency way of learning, right? Not a lot of things were going the way it should be or the right way. So for your home, you can look at what worked during the spring learning experience at home during COVID in March, and just look at your family and look at your kids, because every house is going to be different, every kid's going to be different, and there's a lot of ideas and points that you can probably figure out on your own. And another thing that we need to be prepared for is the district. Each district, I'm pretty sure, at least from what I know, they're going to have an attendance and grading guidelines. So in spring, they didn't have any grading system, right? They carried over what they've already earned. So this time, kids would actually have to do the work and turn in work, and they would have grading guidelines. And also with attendance, we got to think about live Zoom, right? If we have a 9 o'clock Zoom, make sure your child is at 9 o'clock Zoom. Maybe there's a 5-minute tardy or something, but just keep that in mind. And if it's recorded, then you don't necessarily have to plan for it. I mean, you still have to plan for it, but it doesn't have to be like an attendance, right? Because it's recorded. And also, find out what your child's learning grade level is, especially for math, reading, and writing, especially in a younger grade level like K-5. Kids have different grading, learning grades, right? So let's say my third grader, maybe at grade level, maybe below grade level, or above grade level. So knowing that is going to help you how you can support your child. For example, if your child is below grade level and they're not attending their Zoom, they're not participating, they're not getting their work done, that means they're going to be even below grade level. That means that the gap is going to be even wider, right? But if they're at grade level, maybe it's okay to slack in a little bit. I don't know, maybe you want them to be above grade level and you're giving them supplemental work. So those are great things to keep in mind to prepare for the school year. And also considering your students' learning style from the earlier slide, then you're going to have to be prepared how to make that happen, right? How to let them grow and learn and excel in learning for this coming up here. And also be familiar with how the learning platforms work. So for my kids' school district, for example, there's going to be Canvas and Seesaw. So those are going to be how their teachers are going to provide work, turn in work, grading, attendance, Zoom meetings. It's all on Canvas and Seesaw, and that's their learning platform. So be prepared and know as much as you can. Know the ins and outs, ask questions, reach out. Some districts are actually doing parent training. So if they do, be part of that and look out for that. If they're not providing it, ask. I need to be prepared. I want to help my kids. I want to support my kid. And I need to be prepared. And also, be optimistic, right? When we have a positive mindset, this would help us be on the right track and not be distracted by things that are not working out. So if we have a positive mindset, and our child also will feel the same. So we're saying more of, I don't know how this is going to work out, but it will work out. I don't have all the information, but we know enough to get it started and it will be okay. So you are an amazing mom and you know what fits your child, but having positive mindset is also helpful. And communicate. Now that we're prepared, we're going to need to communicate, right? there is so many communication going on. The district is communicating with the families and the students, and also we're sending our inputs to them. So there is so much, right? And I would say start with talking to your child about their fear and excitement about the school year, right? It's good to have these conversations, then you know where your child is at. For example, I have a middle son who's going to be going to middle school, and that's a big milestone, and he won't be seeing his friends, or he won't be doing the live in-person school. So I know he's a little bit nervous about that, but then, you know, it's part of life, right? But it's great to have those conversations. And what are they excited about? Talk to them and communicate and have that conversation going. And another great thing to have would be not just the electronic copy, but also the paper copy of the school calendar. Have one, probably every room, next to your child's desk. Hannah's going to tell us more about that, but I just wanted to mention that on there, and highlight all the important dates, right? The non-school days, anything that's unusual or different than the daily schedule. I think those would be a great communication to have. And also in the beginning of the year, have emails and phone numbers of teachers, administration staff, just in case if it's any questions that you might have, and also tech support. You know, if the battery runs out on the laptop, or something happens to the computer, know who to call, because you're going to need those computers going and running, right? And I would say phone number and email. Those are just a little bit more secure than having one-way communication. And also some schools have family support. Every family is different. We just never know why we need a family support so have that handy. And really, for family support staff at the schools, you can talk to them about pretty much anything about what your family needs. Really, at the end of the day, we want to be doing this. If we have any concerns, questions, or where do I go for this? Where do I do that? And any of that question to make your child's education successful, right? And also another classmates. You never know, you might need to reach out to another classmate for one reason or another. And I would have these available for as a paper and electronic copy. And ask for help when you need it. As soon as you realize that you have a question, you need help, don't hesitate to ask. The longer you wait, I think the harder it is to ask, and we kind of lose what we need help with. At least that's how it is for me. I need to ask my questions, or reach out for help when I need it. And if your student is older than 5th grade, I usually say if they're asking for a phone, then they're ready to advocate for themselves, because they're asking what they need and they're communicating with you, right? So have them advocate for themselves. If they have a question that they need to ask their teachers or administration or someone in that school setting, let them send emails, help them with that, but let them advocate for themselves, because they're going to need that skill as they get older. And for middle and high school students, create a group email list. So having probably like 5-6 teachers, right? And add their counselor. I always love creating an email list. So you have that going. Then in case if you have any questions, you need to reach out. You can always reach out. I would definitely do an introduction email at the beginning of the year. Once you have this group email, tell them who you are, introduce yourself, your goals and dreams for your child, then you're partnering with them, right? Because you are your first teacher for your child, and you're partnering with the teacher, and a lot of teachers will love that. So I would definitely encourage you to do that, and communicate with other classmates and find possible ways for your kids to have friendship with other classmates, right? Because then we're not losing that social skill. So I've heard about Google Hangout. I mean, the kids know really, but just encourage that, and so they feel like they have friends in the classroom. Because I mean, during the Zoom meetings, you know, they'll have all their classmates in there, so might as well create friendship. And also I think it's great social skills while they're texting back and forth, or just messaging each other and communicating and creating friendship. Communication list can go on, but I had to really write down the most important things, so I would definitely encourage you to do that. And next slide, Barry. And we have schedule, right? We have to schedule a few things. Sorry, it's too small of a font. Sorry. Schedule a meeting with your child's teacher. So now that you have the email, you have the contact information, I would say in the beginning of the school year, maybe give them a couple of weeks to settle in and start their classroom and get things going. And I would schedule a meeting and tell them everything about your child, their learning styles. Are they shy when they raise their hands and there's the Zoom classroom going on? Can they even, raise their hands and try to get the teacher's attention? And if they do, like from my spring experience, there's always a couple of students who wants to talk the whole time, right? And then there's, a handful of students who don't get a chance to talk and speak their mind and really participate. So just know what your child needs, and during that Zoom meeting, schedule or during that schedule, talk to the teacher about what your child needs and wants are, and goals and dreams. So for example, during for math or reading or writing, they're in a certain level, right? We talked about their grading levels. So let's say my son, who's third grader, reads at a K level. That's it could be grade level or higher, or on grade level. But talk about, hey, I want my son to go into L level, by spring. Have goals for your child. Talk to them. Talk to the teacher about your goals for your students, so then they're aligning with what your goals and dreams are about your child's education. And also include that child in that goal setting, right? Then they have something to work towards. And there are different things you can do, but like sticker charts, but they're at least, working towards their goal and achieving that goal. And know when the teacher publishes work, and understand due dates, right? Because especially for middle school and higher, there is a lot of work that's been published, and it's hard to know when the due dates are, and it's hard to know how to support your child, right? But if you have the parent portal and all the login information, usually there is parent portal and student portal, you should be able to see what's due. So then you can empower your kids. Hey, did you turn in the work? I'm proud of you. You did this. And just know when things are due, or there's a work that needs to be turned in, but your child is hanging out. They're not really engaged in that homework, so you'll be able to support them in that way. And also know when your child needs to show up for class, right? There's those scheduled Zoom classes that they have to attend, and know how to support them, get up and get going and be ready on time for that. And for juniors and senior students, I would encourage you to schedule a meeting with their counselors those are crucial years in their high school, right? So there's a lot of deadlines, there's college applications, they're starting the process of heading to college. So I would encourage you to schedule a meeting. Your kids may not want to, but that's just the nature of it. And usually not most kids are excited to sit down with their counselor and their parents and talk about college planning. And it could just be that they're not even ready mentally yet, right? So it's great to schedule this meetings if they're a junior and senior, initiate that and make it happen. Learning tips. Now that we have scheduled, prepared, communicated, and we're ready to help our kids, right? We're gonna teach them how to make this work or empower them or be there for them. I would encourage you to have a conversation after each Zoom class if possible, because if we looked at that in-person class, there's a lot of interaction, there's a lot of discussion, there's a lot of partnering and working in groups, and we can create that at home. These are the questions that I would encourage you to ask. What's your favorite part of the lesson? And then, it's not a yes and no question, right? It's not open-ended questions, because a lot of times, especially with older kids, they're like, yep, and then they'll walk away or something like that, right? They're not too interactive. But if we give them this open-ended question, then they'll respond. They'll tell us what they like about the lesson, and also ask them what's their least favorite thing about the lesson was, and then create a discussion that way. And if you have a middle and high school students, they need to be organized, right? There's lots of work, there's lots of turning in homework and writing papers, and this Dropbox works really well as a backup. You can try it, maybe it won't work for you, maybe it will, but I just want to throw that out there. And also with all the passwords and username, and if you have multiple kids, there is so many username and password to keep track of, right? And then you have the parent portal, and there is the student credentials. So there is so many, and Clever is actually a great way to organize login information. You can look it up and see if that would work for you and your family. But these have been pretty successful for most people. And we're engaged in learning. We're excited, right? The school year has started, and back to the in-person learning. In the classroom, when other kids are doing their work, they motivate each other, right? And the teacher is motivating the students. It could be extra recess. It could be you get to have lunch with your teacher, hang out with the principal at the playground during recess. There are so many ways that they motivate the kids to work and to be engaged in learning. So at home, how do we motivate them? That was a challenge for me, and I don't think one way is going to work for everyone. We'll all have to learn what our kids like and what motivates them. But motivation is definitely going to be a key, right? For them to get up every morning and do their work and engage learning. It's one thing to be on a Zoom classroom, but it's another thing when they're actually learning and growing and being successful, right? So as it is individual learning, talk about or figure out a way what would motivate your child, and set goals. So those small goals that we set for them, and if your child is over 5th grade and higher, have them set their own goals and work on achieving them. And because they're actually setting their own goals, I think it would help them to motivate themselves, right? Because they're going to be accountable. They set their own goals, you know, and it would help them be accountable in achieving towards reaching our goal. So I will do like daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, you know, just small goals, but then achieving those in a small steps. And work as a team with your teacher. What that means is maybe they have some ideas, and when you have these goals for your child, and when your child have a goal, communicate that with the teacher. Hey, this is what we're planning. How can you support me in this? I mean, they're going to be in a Zoom learning, right? And so the teacher is there to support you. So communicate that with your teacher, and make sure you reward yourself. We've done all of this, right? All of this prepping and communicating and planning and motivating, and that's a lot of work, not only for the students, but also for us moms, right? And we are worn out. It's exhausting work. So give yourself some grace, and give yourself lots of credit no matter how much you're doing. Giving ourselves grace and lots of self-care, lots of love, because that's how we can give back to our families and we can be well. And this is how we'll talk more about that. But you want to be looking at yourself in the morning and saying, yes, I am giving time to myself. I see a woman that's lit, ready to give back to her family. That's who I want to see in the morning, and be that person, whatever works for you.
Thank you, Salam. That was amazing. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for shifting our perspective to really look at the positives of virtual learning. Thank you for not listing any cons, because we can come up with them if we wanted to, right? But yes, you really listed a lot of great pros there, things that got me really excited actually in controlling the narrative of what we're teaching our kids, and the context in which we're teaching it, right? And also, yeah, and also all the skills that we are learning and the skills that they're going to learn early on, like the self-motivating skills that they're going to learn early on, the organizational skills, just so much. Yeah, you got me really excited for this, actually. Thank you.